Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. My name's Connor Williams, and we're back with the 2025/26 pre-season review. So I'll just be running down the fixtures, the results over pre-season, and giving my thoughts and a couple of other things that have happened before the season starts this weekend. So firstly, we had Accrington Stanley versus Everton away at Accrington on the 15th of July. 1-1, Beto scored a penalty. Not really much to say about this. Justin Clark, Isaac Heath were the main standouts. A lot of kids got time, which is the theme up until, I'm going to say, the Roma game. We saw a lot of the younger players put in the team purely because, depth isn't something that we had at that point, / you could argue still maybe don't have, but certainly, it's one to look at. So 1-1 at Accrington Stanley, like I said, not the greatest. Unfortunately, not the greatest result in the world, but it was the first game back, so maybe we can allow that. Then we went to Blackburn on the 19th of July. That was a 1-0 loss to Blackburn Rovers. Overall, pretty poor performance. Like I said, these are pre-season friendlies, so take these to heart as much as you'd like or don't want to, because they are pre-seasons. I don't really look that deeply into them. So if you want to put a load of stock in these results, then fair enough. But I don't really, especially not the first couple. Again, a bit of a sort of struggling squad to get depth in. 1-0 loss, not great, but, it's pre-season. Then we moved on to Port Vale, which we won 2-1. It was the first men's team game at the new stadium, the Hill Dixon. That was on the 22nd of July. Carlos Alcaraz, first scorer. James Garner scored a lovely free kick as well. Interesting to see James Garner scoring the free kick. Could he be our set piece specialist next season? It's interesting because we've got, obviously, in hindsight back then maybe, but we've got Dewsbury Hall now as well. He could be on set pieces, so it's interesting to see what happens there. But it was a great free kick from him. I probably would argue that's probably one of his best free kicks / goals maybe he's ever scored, and it was in a pre-season friendly. Unlucky, really. Then we have the Premier League Summer Series. This is where it started to heat up a little bit. Obviously, we were in Miami for this. This is where we started to see what I think would have been the first team squad with absolutely no players, signed. So Pickford was in goal, Patterson, O'Brien, Gay, Mikalenko, Garner, Irabunum, McNeil on the left, Alcaraz in the centre, and Dye on the right, and Beto up front. Obviously, people came on like Hal Armstrong, Chiamiti, Tiano Barry, and Tyler Onyango. It was a pretty decent, started well in the first half. Then it sort of fell apart. Travers, new goalkeeper as well, had a howler. So really not great from him. Disappointing second half. There were a couple of dodgy back passes. I think O'Brien puts in a dodgy back pass as well. We just... I got the feeling that we played well, and then second half, obviously we made changes, but I think we got tired, and I think that's when it really started to hit home to a couple of people. A couple of people started panicking that, we need depth in the squad, which we all knew, but I think this is when people started to be like, oh no, what are we going to do next season? We can't go in with this squad, which I don't think we're ever going to, obviously, but I think that's when the people who started to panic. Following on from that, on the 30th of July, it was the Premier League series again, Summer Series, and it was West Ham, which again, another light loss, 2-1 to West Ham. So 3-0 to Bournemouth, 2-1 to West Ham with Paqueta and Fulkrug getting their goals and Idrissa Gueye getting ours, which was surprising. Idrissa Gueye scored in the 17th minute. Again, sort of the same theme as Bournemouth, though. It was a decent first half. Then we fell away in the second. The squad was a bit different this time as well. It almost looked like it was a three at the back. There was Travers in goal, Mikalenko, Keane, O'Brien, McNeil on the left, Irabunum and Gay in the middle, Patterson on the right. And then the up front trio was Ndai, Beto, and Harrison Armstrong, which was interesting. And then come the 46th minute, Tiano Barry came on, James Garner came on, and Alcaraz came on. And then in the 69th, we saw Chimiti and Tarkowski. And then in the 80th, Isaac Heath. Yeah, again, same sort of thing. We need depth. Obviously, it's great that the young lads are coming on and getting game time in pre-season. You don't really want to be walking into next season with Onyango being your only other midfield option after Idrissa Gueye and James Garner or Irabunum. So, we could sort of see that depth was needed. Then we moved on to the final of the summer series, which was Manchester United on the 3rd of August in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tough game, this. Really, really tough. Fernandez gets a dodgy penalty. I think if it was VAR, they probably wouldn't have got it, but obviously it's not VAR and friendlies. Goes down a bit easily for me, but obviously Fernandez is going to finish that. Ndai then equalises. Mason Mount then scores. Fernandez gets in a dirty challenge on Ndai. Hilarious own goal as well. Puts it back to a draw. That heaven for Manchester United got an own goal, which put us back to 2-2. Overall, it was probably our best pre-season performance. Again, we saw a different formation, probably the more likely the one we're going to come in with, which is like the 4-4-1-1, whatever you want to call it, 4-3-3, whatever. It was more a 4-3-3. It was Mikolenko, Keane, Tarkowski, O'Brien, Garner, Gueye, Irabunum, Ndai, Beto, Alcaraz, and then Adam Asnu got a cameo from the bench. Tyler Onyango got a cameo. McNeil, Tiano Barry, Harrison Armstrong, and Yusuf Chimiti all got a bit of game time coming off the bench, which is great to see. Obviously, it's interesting that obviously Barry is being brought on bit part. I think obviously, like once the season starts, I think the move is Barry will probably be our out-and-out striker. David Moyes has said it during pre-season about Beto. I think he should bring him on and trying to integrate him gently. Like I said, he's said some stuff about Beto, which makes me think that Beto will be the second striker and Yusuf Chimiti will be the third striker if he doesn't get a loan move. I'm hoping he will get a loan move, though. The summer series, though, as a whole, I thought was quite nice to give the American fans something to watch. We've got a couple of Everton fans, American Everton fans, obviously within the fan base. We've got quite a few, but we've got the people you see on the internet, like Astro, and we've got a couple of lads that work or have worked for the Toffee Blues that are from America. So it was obviously great for them and great to see for the American fans to come out and see us. We normally have a good stronghold there as well due to Tim Howard, Landon Donovan in the past, being culturally loved over there and then over here. And it was interesting. I think they spent some of their time in Miami. I think that's where Barry went over to talk to Moyes. So, I mean, I like these. I like the friendlies being over in America or wherever you go on tour. You can go anywhere in the world. I like it. I think it gives the fans over in that country something to watch. They get to see the Premier League. Okay, it's not the same as watching us versus United on game week 12 or whatever. Whatever. It's not got the same tenacity. It's not got the same jeopardy. It's not got the same atmosphere. But I don't mind the friendlies going over there. I think it's nice. Obviously, the big fear in football is that eventually the Premier League will put games over there like the NFL does, and people that really don't want that, which I understand that. I don't think I want that either. But this is a good compromise, sending friendlies, having friendly series over there in the Premier League. And obviously, America have held the Club World Cup recently. They're going to hold the World Cup next year. So you could argue at the minute, America are eating good on their football or soccer. You don't need any more of it at the minute. Let's just see how this goes at the current stage. And then we move on to Everton versus Roma on the 9th of August at the Hill Dixon. First game there, fans were there as well. I've seen a lot on social media about it. There was also the Legends game afterwards. I think this was more of a spectacle of, I think fans were just more excited to see the new ground, weren't they? I don't think anyone went in I mean, obviously, we went in to watch the football, but I don't think anybody was. I don't think the game was what everybody's first thing on their mind was. I think the first thing on their mind was, oh, we get to see the new ground, and then obviously watch the game, which was in. Obviously, this is the Fridinken partnership. They own Roma, they own us, and obviously the friendly game afterwards was the Legends game afterwards was interesting as well. It was a good day. I think if you went and you went to both games you got to watch us at 3 o'clock and then the Legends afterwards. The game itself for the first 11, this is where I think we saw probably, as this is our last friendly, this was probably the one where we look at it with a bit more stock. We look at not so much the result, but we start looking at the formation and the players that are being played because that's a good indicator on where we're going next this season. So Pickford was in goal, O'Brien at right back, Tarkowski, Branthwaite in the middle, Mikalenko on the left, Idrissa Gueye in the middle with Dewsbury Hall, with James Garner. And then on the three behind the striker, you had Ndai, Alcaraz, and Dewsbury Hall. And then you had Barry up front. We lost 1-0. Unfortunately, Sewell scored for them. He's a fantastic player for Roma. I mean, I wasn't really putting much stock in the result itself because Roma are a very good side. They're a European side and they have some great players. Not to say that but I think there is a obvious depth in class between us and Roma and quality in players. Um, Mikalenko got hurt as well, which meant that Asnu got some game time. Dwight McNeil got some game time. Beto, Irabunum, Keane, Coleman, and Chimiti. This is where I found it quite interesting. You obviously have, we obviously saw Beto coming on, and I think this is probably how it's going to be at the start of the season with Beto coming on from the bench. He gave some players game time that I don't think will be getting much game time unless of injuries. And you can see where we need depth, right back being O'Brien. We probably wouldn't need to see Michael Keane as much if we could get a right back so that it's O'Brien and as the next centre back. Nathan Patterson has picked up, I believe, a hernia injury, so it looks like it will be O'Brien unless we can pull in a right back pretty pronto. Obviously, there's still time to go in the window, but in terms of before our first game of the season against Leeds, it looks like it might be O'Brien at right back again, which I'm not really a massive fan of because I think he's not going to overlap the right midfielder. So you'd either need an out-and-out winger on the right, which I don't think we're going to. I think by what we're looking at the time, we're getting people who are going to play the half spaces. I also don't know if O'Brien's got the ball crossing abilities. I think he's a good quick fix, but I think we should be looking for an actual right back, and then we can move him to centre back as well. Then it gives us a bit more depth at centre back. It was Kieran Dewsbury Hall's first game as well. It was great to see. I think he's an exciting prospect for us. I think he's a decent player as well that we've done well to get. He's 26 years old as well, which is a great age to get a footballer pretty much a prime. He's not an investment like an Asnu, and he's not too far past it like some of the other players we could have gone and got. We're not looking at an Ashley Young situation where we're looking at a 30-plus-year-old player. He played well as well, Dewsbury Hall, so that was great to see. Barry got his first start. I think that'll be the case going forward. Asnu did get minutes. I think we've got to be patient with Asnu. It's why I was just saying about Dewsbury Hall. He's a young lad. He's got a lot of potential. He's quite highly rated, but we have got to give him some time and some patience. He wasn't bought to come straight in for Mikalenko. It's unfortunate that Mikalenko has picked up the injury. Let's not get too mad on him and start looking at, and start ripping him down. I saw some people moaning on social media, which is always the case, isn't it? And it was a bit like, oh, really? But people love to moan about everything and anything, so it's best just to ignore that. But I did when I saw it, I was like, we are going to have to be a little bit patient with the lad. We haven't brought him into. It's not like when we bought Patterson and we're like, you need to come in the team now. We can afford to have Asnu out on the side while Mikalenko was here, and that's what he was brought in for. It's not his fault that Mikalenko's got injured. It's, just an unfortunate situation. Moving on from that, it was the Legends game as well. Afterwards, interesting lineup for the Legends game, wasn't it? Some of the players, I obviously appreciate that the Legends were, the 80s and stuff. So, like, they're all, way past playing for 90 minutes of football. Obviously, Peter Reid was the manager and got some game time, which is great to see. And then it was more like, I'd say it was more of a cult heroes lineup from Everton more than legends. You saw there were some that I think were classed as modern legends. You saw Tony Ibbott, Leighton Baines, Phil Jagielka, which those three, I'm sort of, especially Baines and Jagielka, I'm fine with them being, under that label. Then you got Andy Johnson, Gareth Barry, Stephen Pienaar. Again, Pienaar, love him to bits. I'm not too fussed on that. I think Andy Johnson and Gareth Barry, great players, but probably in that cult hero category. Yakubu, Naismith, and Umar Niasse. Umar Niasse. Theo Walcott, I think, was sort of on the lineup, I think, as well, which was mad. Um, they were among the substitutes. It was, it was more of a cult heroes, and I was a bit worried, that it was bordering on the lines of gone from cult heroes to just played for Everton. But it's a bit of fun as well, though. I'm not going to deep it because it was a bit of fun. It's something to commemorate the two clubs coming together, especially at Everton's new ground. It was just meant to be a fun day for the fans. But Leighton Baines played really, really well. Um, his connections with Pienaar were rolling back the years. Set piece delivery was decent as well. He's still probably the best person to put in a corner at the club. One of the goals came from him finding Jagielka, who launched into his celebration, which was very, very impressive. And then the other goal came from a Jose Baxter assist to Stephen Naismith, which again was fantastic to see for both of them. It was a nice. I'm not going to deep the game because one, it's the Legends, it means nothing for next season. But it was a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun, and the fans, I think, liked watching the Legends play. So yeah, pretty decent. Overall, thoughts on pre-seasons. I mean, it's a work. I would label our pre-season as from the start to the end a work in progress, and I think it still is a work in progress. The last squad that played Roma the last lineup were miles better than the squad that played Accrington Stanley. You've got more first team players. You've got some new signings that have now been integrated. It was decent. It was a work in progress and it got better, which is what you want to see. The results here and there, but it's preseason, so the results aren't the problem. What I was mainly looking for is what the lineup was, who's getting minutes at preseason, because that is important, and are any of the new lads, where are the new lads fitting in the system? Because obviously there was, where does Dewsbury Hall fit? So I think we got some of the answers for that. There are obviously still places and holes that need filling, so it still is a work in progress. I think we need a new right back. I think we could do with a midfielder that's just going to sit deep as well, because Idrissa Gueye not that. Need a right winger. I think that right hand side could do with a little bit of a buffing. And then I think we're okay. I think we're okay. We need to decide what we're doing with Chimiti. Is he staying or is he going? I would prefer him to go out on loan. He needs to get some game time. Otherwise, he's just not going to amount so much here, which would be a shame. So I hope he gets his loan move. You could argue maybe another left back if you really want to. But that's just being a bit greedy because obviously Mikalenko's out. And I don't know if we've got the time in the world to be doing that. I'd rather us get a right back and a right winger. So, but the pre-season was a work in progress, and it's done that, and I think it still is a work in progress as of recording. Jack Grealish is meant to be having his medical for Everton, so he comes in. Where's he fit in the fold? Maybe out on the left, maybe in the centre. I think him coming in moves Alcaraz to the bench. And from what we've seen in pre-season, I think Dwight McNeil might be more of a benched player, but that's fine. First 11s don't win you trophies. Squads win you trophies, is what I saw the other day, and it's true. And you've got to think if we had a front four, striker of like Barry, and then behind him you had Jack Grealish, Dewsbury Hall, and Dye in whatever way that fits. That's a decent front four. And then you switch that with McNeil can come in, Beto can come in. Alcaraz can come in, and whoever we get as a right winger, I think that's pretty decent rotation. It's better. Obviously, the right back situation and all that needs sorting, and the holding midfielder. But last year was the problem of we didn't have a lot in attack. We seemed a bit toothless, and this attack and the depth in attack is better than last year. So there's your improvement. The winners and losers, though, of pre-season, a bit tough. I think the losers are tough. I don't think Travers has had a great pre-season because of his howler. That's never a great start. But again, he's a pre-season, so I'm not. I wouldn't say my opinion holds much weight because they are pre-season. I would say that that's maybe a little bit of a worry is that he had a bit of a howler when he came on. In terms of the other people that I don't think had done very well, I mean, Patterson getting injured hasn't helped him. I'd say that sort of puts him in a little bit of a loss now on where his stance in the club is because of his injury. I think Idrissa Gueye's had a good pre-season. I think he's one of the winners of it. I think he's played well, rolling back the years. Again, I think we might lose him to the AFCON this year, though, and I don't know what we're going to do when that happens. Some of the winners as well are the young lads. It was nice to see Harrison Armstrong get games. Isaac Heath getting some games as well. Justin Clark, who played well against Accrington Stanley. Good to see Barry and Dewsbury Hall getting some game time as well as Asnu. I think they win in the aspect that they've got game time under their belt in the first 11. So that's worth them seeing. And I played well as well for what it's worth. I'd say Michael Keane. I think I'm a bit concerned still about that, but I think we'll be saying that about Michael Keane till, whenever. That is still a concern for me. But ultimately, I don't think there's that many concerns. Mikalenko getting injured as well is probably not like a loser, but that's unfortunate for him as well. But that's all we got time for. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and comment down below your thoughts on the pre-season. Are you looking forward to the new season, and where do you think we'll finish in the coming season? Let me know. See you guys soon.